Hi Year 9. Today we are going to start our new food and digestion topic, and we are going to turn in our new books to page 3, and you will see at the top of page 3 we've got the title A Balanced Diet, the Eat Well plate. So we're going to spend a bit of this lesson considering the Eat Well plate. Now I know you will have already covered much of this in home economics, so much of this will just be revision. Now the first thing that I'd like you to do is to colour code each section of the Eat Well plate like you see on my screen. So I'd like you to colour the section here yellow, and I'd like you to colour the section here blue, and so on for purple, pink and green. Now we will look at each section in turn, and what I would also like us to do then is to know that the Eat Well plate shows the recommended balance of foods in the diet. Now I'd like us to take this extra note at the bottom of page 3. So it's important to remember that it shows us this recommended balance. And remember, you can pause the video if you need to take a wee bit more time to write down your note. Now, we have already said that the Eat Well plate shows us the proportions of different foods that we should be eating in a balanced diet. It will be impossible to have all these different foods in every single meal, so it really is talking about a balanced diet over a couple of days. So again, I'd like you to write this extra note at the bottom of page 3. So we're thinking about a balanced diet over a couple of days. We'll never have all these foods in every single meal. Now, the Eat Well plate, you can see, has got 5 sections or 5 food groups. Now, each section is a different size, and it's important that we remember that each set is a different size. Now, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to write in the proportions that we should aim for of each of these segments. And it might be useful if you keep your colour coding going. So we could write in this 33% in yellow, this 15% in blue, and so on. Now we're going to take each segment and we are going to think about each segment in turn, and we're going to think about some examples of foods that make up each segment. Now, it's important, like we've said, that our diet is balanced. We make sure that we have lots of different foods in our diet, and we drink plenty of fluids like water, milk or fruit juice. And perhaps the most important thing is that we enjoy our food. Now, if we take our green segment, and remember, we should aim to have our diet being made up of about a third of these fruit and vegetables. About 33% of our diet should be fruit and vegetables. Now, we should aim to eat at least 5 portions of these fruit and vegetables every day. Now, I know I find that difficult sometimes, but perhaps it's worthwhile asking yourself if you manage that recommended amount every day. Now, here's where you've got a bit of a choice. We've got to remember some examples from this fruit and vegetable section. So if you're a bit of an artist, you could draw in 5 or 6 examples. But if you're more like me, we're going to write in the 5 or 6 examples. And you can see them there in the picture. So perhaps we could write in peppers, apples, grapes, broccoli, bananas, any of those pictures you can draw or write in 5 or 6. Now if we move on to the yellow section of the Eat Well plate, and again this needs to make up roughly a third of our diet. We need to eat lots from this group, and we should try to eat a food from this group at every mealtime. Now again, you've got a choice. We're going to pick 5 or 6 examples from the picture and either write or draw them in. And remember, you can pause the video if you need to. So we've got pasta and bread and rice. I can see Weetabix there. I can see porridge oats. There's lots of different examples. Now if we go to the blue segment. Now remember, the blue segment is supposed to make up about 15% of our diet. And this is made up of all our milk and dairy products. Now we should aim to eat 2 to 3 portions from this group every day if we're going to get all the calcium that we need. And this is really important for people like you, because remember, your bones are still growing. Now, lots of the foods in this group can be quite high in fat, so it is important to try to choose low-fat foods from this group. So again, pick maybe 4 examples this time. We've got a smaller segment, and either write or draw them in. So we've got milk, we have got cheese, we have got yogurt, we've got soya milk, all those types of food. Moving on to our pink segment then. This contains our meat, fish, eggs and beans, and we should aim to have about 12% of our diet coming from this food group. Now if we write in 4 or 5 examples, that will be enough. So perhaps we could write in beans or salmon or chickpeas or eggs or nuts or mince. There are lots of examples that we could write. Now the last smallest segment of our Eat Well plate, we should aim to only eat 7% of our diet coming from this segment. And this is like the treat segment. So this is made up of all the foods that are high in fat or sugar. We're going to write in 4 examples, and if I were to pick my favourite 4, I'd probably pick Coke, I'd pick chocolate, I'd pick crisps, and I'd pick cake. Now it's fine to eat from this segment, but we've got to remember, because they're so high in fat and sugar, that we eat small amounts from this group. Now it's important also to realise that many of our meals are made up from these 5 groups, but they come in one dish. So if we took the example that's on the screen just now of shepherd's pie contains peas and carrots from the fruit and vegetables group. It contains mashed potatoes from the bread, rice, potatoes and pasta group. It contains cheese on the top from the milk and dairy foods group. It contains minced beef from the meat group. And also, because we fried the mince in a little bit of oil, it contains oil from this food and drinks group that are high in fat or sugar. So shepherd's pie is actually a pretty balanced meal. Now if we turn on over to page 4, we've got to remember that this Eat Well plate gives us information about how we should aim to plan our diet. Many of the foods we have talked about in these 5 groups will fall into these 7 main food groups that we're going to talk about on page 4. Now you can see that you've got a table on page 4 containing these 7 food groups. Okay, now we're going to fill in some examples from each of these food groups. Now the first one that we've got to talk about is carbohydrates. Now a really important food group, because they provide our bodies with lots of energy. So somebody who's really active, like an athlete or maybe a professional footballer, will need to make sure that they are eating a diet that is high in carbohydrate. Now if you look at the picture, you can see there that we have got lots of examples of food that are high in carbohydrate. And we're going to write in some of those examples. So we're going to write in that bread is a food that's high in carbohydrate. Potatoes, cereal, pasta, and sugary foods. Now, according to the Eat Well plate, we should pick healthy versions of these carbohydrate-rich foods, and remember they should make up about 33% of our diet. Now our next food group is the fats food group. Now fats are important in our diet, but probably in quite small amounts if we think back to the Eat Well plate, but they're needed in our diets because they provide a store of energy. They also allow our bodies to keep warm and that they insulate our bodies. So it's important to remember that we need to have some fat in our diet. Now if we write in some foods that are high in fat, so we've got cream and butter, milk, oil, cheese, and junk food are all high in fat. Now moving on down the page then, we come to our protein group. Now our proteins are really important in our diet because they help our bodies to grow, really important for people like you because you're still growing so fast. And also they're important to repair worn or damaged out tissue. So I could sum that up and I could say that proteins are important for growth and they're important for repair. Now foods like meat, fish, eggs, nuts, and milk are all high in protein. And it'll be really important that we remember a couple of examples of foods from each of these. Now we come to our vitamins food group. Now vitamins and minerals quite often go together, but they're both important that we have them in our diet. Now there's a whole range of vitamins that we need to include in our diet to keep our bodies healthy. An example in our notes there is vitamin D for strong bones. We also know a bit about vitamin C is needed to keep our immune system healthy. And there is a range of vitamins that we need to try to include in our diets. Now we can see there from the picture that we find lots of vitamins in fruit, also in vegetables, and also in our breakfast cereals. Now, like we said, minerals and vitamins go hand in hand. So again, minerals are needed in small amounts to keep us healthy. For example, the mineral iron is needed to make red blood cells. Somebody who's deficient in iron would be anemic. Another mineral that we've mentioned earlier on is calcium, and we know that calcium is needed to keep our bones healthy and strong, and also needed to keep our teeth healthy and strong. Now, if we look at the picture to find out some of the foods that are high in minerals or contain these minerals, we've got lots of different minerals in fruit and vegetables. And again, our breakfast cereals. If we have Rice Krispies in the morning, we're actually eating iron because Rice Krispies are fortified with iron. Now, water is the next one that we come to. Water is really important to keep our cells hydrated, and the cytoplasm of our body cells is mainly made of water. Now, water doesn't need to come in the form of water. We can actually get water in lots of our different fruits and vegetables. Strawberries are a fruit that are really high in water. So this water comes from the different drinks that we take into our bodies. And also we find lots of water in different fruits. Now, really important that we have this water in our. Now, the last food group then on page 4 is fibre. Now, fibre keeps the food moving along the digestive system, keeps us going to the toilet regularly, and prevents constipation. Now, fibre is found in lots of different foods, and there are some examples there on my screen, but fruit and vegetables are really high in fibre. And also many of the breakfast cereals that we eat are high in fibre also.